My name is Bridgette Winslow. I'm the Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs at Adrian College, and it is with great pleasure that I got to bring three amazing students with me this morning at Anton Horton. Hello. Sommer Gibson.
Hello.
Hello. And Miss McKinney.
Hello.
So I'm so lucky to bring colleagues like these individuals with me today. What we're going to talk a little bit about today is a great program on Adrian College's campus, Brothers in Action. Adrian College is a small private liberal arts institution in southern Michigan. We have a student population of about 1,700. Our diversity percentage is right at 15% this year, fall of 17. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of context of where we are. So Brothers in Action, originally, and the students are going to talk about how this has evolved, but originally it was a group for African American students at Adrian College that focused on the development of professionalism through opportunity for leadership and service, a commitment to learning and achievement, and a commitment to building a network of supportive relationships throughout campus. So, in the fall of 13, the administration found that we had a major drop in our retention rates. And we really started to dig into this, and we found that we were not doing a good job of retaining our African American male students in particular. So we did some focus groups, which were greatly attended. And what was amazing to me, I had the opportunity to do some of these focus groups, and the students were very honest with us. For example, they talked about how they were holding prayer services before games and before tests on their own. And they talked about how they had a small support group, but they really needed a bigger support group across campus. So the discussions started of what we could do. And at the time, we had an amazing academic coordinator in academic service named C.J. Mathis, who's not at the school anymore, but really took the program and developed it and put energy behind it. They talked about how they wanted a platform for sharing ideas, planning, and programming across campus. And Brothers in Action really, right now, fills an important need. It has been able to build talent beyond athletics. Students now want the benefit of being in Brothers in Action. For example, the other day, Maya was telling us a story about a student that did a presentation, a big presentation at school, and he was like, yeah, I'm in Brothers in Action. And Maya was like, I haven't seen him at the meetings. But it's really established a reputation that everyone on campus wants to be part of this. It's been able to strengthen the members' purpose and belonging, and it's motivated personal development and achievement. Maya and Sommer and Anton will talk a little bit more about this, but from my perspective, I do a lot with retention across campus. It's a group that peer pressure is amazingly positive. If I have a student that's not showing up to my office that's supposed to be in there, I can reach out, well, for example, one of these three, and be like, hey, have you seen so-and-so? I haven't seen them in a few weeks, and I'll be darned, they will be in my office within 20 minutes. And shaking in their boots because Anton walked up and said, hey, you haven't been seeing Mrs. Winslow like you're supposed to. So the peer pressure amongst these students is amazing to me. From an organizational structure, we have faced a few challenges in this program, one of which is the turnover in the advisor program, which is actually why I'm here today, because of the advisor that was supposed to ended up taking a promotion within it. They've had a lot of talk about the change in the mission of the program, and the students, these three were integral in making changes within that mission. mission. They've raised their academic standards. They really push each other to be the best they can be academically. They, at first, as in any group, there was some blurring of lines of what responsibilities were within the e-board. They have revamped that and really solidified what each position is designed to do. And as with any student group, they had to learn how to run an efficient meeting. And I know we've all been to meetings where the students, they go off on a tangent and forget what the purpose is. So they've really focused in on making sure that they've had agendas for the meetings. They have goals each semester of what they'd like to achieve, and they've really structured the program itself. I'm going to turn things over to these guys to really tell you their story and tell you what, how Brothers in Action has been part of their success academically at Adrian College. And you won't hear from me until the very end, because their stories are so moving and so inspiring that I would not, as an administrator, I would never be able to do it justice. So I'm going to turn things over to Anton.
All right, I'm Anton Horton. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and I'm the president of Brothers in Action. I am from the violent cities that infested me. I am from a system that constantly neglected me. I am from a place where the color of my face is the reason why they never really accepted me. I am from an institution where they never protected me. I am from the bruises, though, because even though they put us through this, can't take these problems and use them as excuses, though. It's time to motivate our lives. We have to motivate our youth, because we don't want them to go through the same things they put us through. We have to be different, live better lives. We have to start loving our women so they become better wives. We have to stop following negativity because we think that it's sweet. We have to get our kids in school and off these dangerous streets. We have to start winning and stop thinking about defeat. We have to keep pushing until our goals are complete. We have to chase greatness to get rid of the pain. We have to stop just doing things and start using our brains. We have to work so hard and start thinking we insane, and then one day those same people gonna remember our names. We have to start being ourselves and forget about being everybody, because we are somebody. That's one of the ways I express my feelings, and one of the things that motivates me. I write poetry a lot, and I wanted to use that to kind of get you, let you guys see the kind of people that's in Brothers in Action. We have people that are very talented in our organization. So I'm the president of Brothers in Action on our campus. Brothers in Action is a student organization on the campus of Adrian College that prides itself on leadership. We believe that being a leader is very important, especially because our demographic makes up the majority African American students. If you're an African American leader on the campus of a predominantly white institution, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get noticed. So that's very important to me. We dedicate ourselves to loyalty, respect, scholarship, perseverance, and excellence. The biggest thing that stuck out to me is perseverance. One of the things, which I'll tell you guys later, college is tough, especially coming from the inner city of Detroit. College can be very tough, and it's like that for a lot of students on our campus. They come from similar backgrounds, so perseverance is very important. The vision, to be an organization that helps students find tutors. Me, personally, when I was a freshman, you could not tell me to go see a tutor. Freshmen come in kind of naive. They want to do everything on their own. So we became an organization that you have to find a tutor. We're going to help you find a tutor, and you're going to have to go see your tutor. Become knowledgeable about the financial aid process. So the financial aid process, as soon as you get to school, the financial aid office emailing you as soon as you get on our campus. We need to see you. You going into the financial aid office not knowing anything about the financial aid process does nobody any good. So we believe that, becoming knowledgeable about the process can help you, and then you can help someone else at the end of the day. You want to develop relationships with faculty and staff. I believe that creating a network within our school is very important because we need recommendation letters for graduate school. You never know the kind of job offers you may get from just knowing a professor. You never know what you may need from these people. So developing a relationship is very important. And becoming leaders in our community. So Adrian Adrian, the city of Adrian is like nothing like where we're at right now. It's like very small. But becoming a leader in this small place is not easy. And when you can become a leader here, it lets me know, becoming a leader here, I can go anywhere and become a leader as well. I go back home in Detroit. A lot of people know me back at home, and I believe that one day I'll go back home in Detroit and be a leader there as well. As a result, we have turned the vision into reality. So as she spoke about before, speaking with students about their preference, what they wanted at our school for African American students, we have turned this vision into reality. And I'm going to bring Sommer Gibson up, and she'll talk more about community services. Give her a applause.
Some of the things that we do, some of the things that I do within the organization, and then later on I'll tell you more about myself.
One slide. Go back another slide.
Oh, go back another slide. I'm like, move over. I'm standing.
You're on takeaways.
Is that me?
Yeah.
All right. See, it's open. It's not clicking, but it'll the door's open. So we accept all men and all women of all ethnic backgrounds. And obviously, as I'm standing up here, I am not a male. So, no, we're not changing it to brothers and sisters in action. If anybody would like to know why, it would be because as we've grown over the years, we've realized that it's more important to keep our name as it is. And the boys that are a part of the e-board outside of Anton all were whining and crying about how they wanted us to be included in. They wanted to make sure that our feelings were involved. And me and Maya just were like, we're keeping it the same. Everybody's just gonna be a brother, and that's it. But they gave it a lot of thought, and they wanted to make sure that everyone was included in some way. But I feel like being a brother means that you're a part of it, regardless. Whether you're a woman, whether you're black, whether you're white, blue, purple, pink. I plan most of the events, and I search for volunteering opportunities. And so some of the events that we've done, we have our Fire for Christ, which I'll get to later on. And we've done a lot of like sales for things for certain holidays, which is our fundraiser. So we did flowers and candy for Valentine's Day. We did like little mugs filled with shamrocks and candy for St. Patrick's Day, which ultimately helped us fund our trip to Atlanta earlier this year in February. And initially, our purpose for the trip was to have some kind of team bonding, where we could get to know each other on a more personal level, versus just seeing each other in the organization for whatever we were doing. In that, we wanted to kind of take an educational turn to it, so we wanted to be able to understand and know each other as people, but we also wanted to be able to take something home with us. So we visited the Martin Luther King Center, we visited his house, and my personal favorite, we visited the church that he once spoke in. And so all around us, we took a total of 12 students in our organization, and all around us, we all sat close in the pews, and just to hear Martin Luther King overhead, and all of these black people, all these white people, all these different people in one setting together as a unit, hearing Dr. King in a church that he once was in was so surreal, and it was such a great bonding experience. Other events that we do, obviously, is Fire for Christ. We do Christmas cards, raking leaves for the elderly. We do prayer sessions for all students and faculty before finals, and we do a lot more little stuff around Adrian College and around the city, just to kind of get our name out there. And Fire for Christ is one of our biggest events on campus. It's basically just a big church service where we have pastors, motivational speakers, singers, dancers come out, and we theme each one according to something that we feel like needs to be touched on, because college is hard and not everybody is going to be able to get through it alone. So in Fire for Christ, we just make sure that even if we reach the one person, that was enough for us. That's it. That's all I have for my slide right now. So I'm gonna hand it over to Maya.
Hello. So yes, I'm Maya McKinney. I'm the secretary of Brothers in Action. I'm currently a junior studying criminal justice, pre-law, and I'm a Spanish minor. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about scholarship. So currently 75% of our organization has a GPA above a 2.5. At the birth of the organization, the 2.5 GPA was only held by 25% of the organization. So about 2 years ago, the original GPA requirement for any e-board member was to hold a 2.0. But when we changed our constitution, we changed the GPA. We were told by our former advisor that we should raise our limits and, aim for higher goals. And the 2.0, she just says, was unacceptable. So we raised it to a 2.5. In 3 years of this group's existence, we have moved up from 0 members making the dean's list to having 6 students earning their way up to a 3.5 or higher GPA. And although for the e-board, the requirement is a 2.5, very proud of us, all 6 e-board members had earned a 3.0 or higher last semester, so we are very proud of ourselves. Statistics show that people who stay in our group on average have a GPA increase of 0.35 when compared to their cumulative GPA from fall 2016. So last year we decided that, people have a lot of excuses as to why they aren't studying, why they aren't holding up their end of the bargain when they decide to come to college. So we enforce study rooms. So before each meeting we meet once a week on Sundays at 6 o'clock. We hold study tables. So we make sure that they're in a computer lab, and so no one can say, I don't have a computer, we have a computer now, so it's good to work. We make sure that we have people in there who know strong in Spanish, strong in math, so that you can ask for help and be comfortable doing your assignments. So I believe that was definitely the main part of why the GPA rose for a lot of our members. Members who are no longer a part of the group have shown a minimum 0.2 decrease in their GPA or have been suspended. And we also use a strict no slacking policy. So again, like Dean Winslow said, we have a very strong, positive, peer pressure aspect of us. So we hold everyone accountable. So last year, for instance, one of our E4 members was just falling through, and he wasn't going to class. He was more concerned with working or just not being attentive in class rather than anything else. So we kind of pulled him to the side and just get together. Like, whatever you need to do, we're here for you, but you have to do it too. And he got his 3.0, so very proud of that. Yes.
Can you explain what's the e-board? Are you all officers or is that?
Yeah, so e-board stands for elected board. So, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, public relations officer, and research and development. So,
And then the rest of the students are members.
members, yes.
So this is an organization on your campus?
Yes. And I'm just gonna pass this right back to Anton.
So, all of us joined this organization because we believe that we all share, we're very similar in so many different ways. We all have our stories, and we're going to take the time right now to tell you guys a little bit about us and why we decided to join such an organization. So me, like I said, I came from the city of Detroit. I grew up on the west side of Detroit. I attended Detroit public schools until I went to high school. Once I got into high school, I started to really take basketball serious. So that's what led me to going to Adrian College. Once I got to Adrian College, like any other person, I believe school was more about having fun than, getting an education. I believe school was more about the sport I decided to play than getting an education. So in that, I started being very irresponsible, very unorganized, doing a lot of the things I wouldn't do if I was at home with my mom. Sure, that freedom that you get when you get to school is like no other, and it took advantage of me. I I really wanted to party so much. I cared about basketball to the point where school was like, oh my goodness. Because in high school, a lot of the times where I come from, if you play sports, it don't matter what grade you get, you still gonna graduate. So I went to college, even though I was getting good grades because my mom, she didn't play no games. I went to college with that same mindset, okay, I'll go to class, I don't care, but hopefully I'll still graduate. It wasn't until like mid-semester when we got our like mid-semester test scores back, then I realized like this is not gonna work. I need to study, I need to figure things out fast because my mom, she still wanted to know what my grades was. And that's very embarrassing to tell your mom that you know, what your grades are right now when you're so used to getting a certain GPA. So, like I said, that's my freshman year. My sophomore year, come back to school, a lot of my friends left. A lot of people I came in with were from Detroit as well, about 15 freshmen. They come from Detroit. My sophomore year, they all left. And when they left, it was a big reality check for me. They left because they felt alienated. And then when they left me lonely. So now I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? Do I leave, you know, or do I stick it out? And I'm one of the students who decided to stick it out. Once I decided to stick it out, I decided to make new friends. And when I met new friends and made new friends, we decided to come up and be a part of this organization. Now, when we first became a part of this organization, let me tell you, it was not easy. We had about 25 other African-American students, men, who, you know, we pretty much just used to meet just to say what's up, check in with each other. It was very unorganized, you know. So coming into my junior year, we changed our constitution. When we changed our constitution, we opened our doors up to women in need. And I can tell you, it was one of the best ideas that we could have ever had, because let me tell you, when we opened our doors up to these women, they came in and they reorganized our organization. A lot of the things we were doing, we couldn't do them anymore. Get to the point, get to the point. Didn't really take any mess, and I can tell you, these students, they're in college still. We're all still in college, and I can tell you that I believe to this day that right now, without a degree, they can go in and help run a company, because I believe that what they did for this organization has done wonders on the campus of Adrian College. Students who come in with a 2.0 GPA into our organization, and then a semester later they'll have a 2.35. I think that that's pretty big, because if you have a 1.7 GPA, you're almost getting kicked out of school. And then you join an organization just off of, because study tables, we have study tables, but that's not what we stress. We stress self-accountability. And every time we have a meeting, we don't say, you need to get yourself together, right? Students are wanting to get themselves together, and by the end of the semester, they have a 2.0 GPA. Now they're, you know, they can really focus on bringing their GPAs up. I think that that's big for a student organization. And I think that having something like this, if you guys can at your campus, will benefit your campuses as well. Even if you teach high school, if you're a high school teacher, just implementing something like this on your campus. It may be tough because, like I said, I'm bragging on us a little bit. You gotta have some different kind of people, but I believe that putting something like this on your campus where the students are accountable for each other more than a staff member being accountable for the students. Students respond better to students. Like, I'm so embarrassed to go talk to them and tell them my grades, because we should hold each other to a higher standpoint than, you know, mediocrity. So you can go talk to your staff member, they gonna have to talk to you and tell your grades, but they don't really want to hear it from the staff. They don't care what the staff say at the end of the day. But when you have to talk to your peers about it, and they have a certain GPA, and you go tell them, they bragging about like having a 3.5, you go tell them like, that's pretty embarrassing. In my opinion, it should be embarrassing. So my story is, I started off slacking very bad. Now I'm looking forward to going to graduate school in January, hopefully. Extending my education. I want to pick up a master's in educational leadership and eventually get my PhD in educational leadership. I'm from Detroit City, and like I said, I left Detroit Public Schools once I got to high school because Detroit Public Schools kind of went down the drain very bad. I'm one of the students who want to bring Detroit Public Schools back. I understand being from Detroit, what Detroit Public Schools could do for a lot of people, and I believe it should be led and ran by people that look like the students and can relate to the students. So I want to be the superintendent of Detroit Public Schools one day. So, like I said, this is not the last time y'all gonna see me. Without further ado, I'm gonna bring Sommer up and she's gonna share her story with you guys as well.
Can I ask a question? Does your university or your college help fund you? And do you have a faculty sponsor or any kind of adult sponsor?
So, one thing, our school is very supportive of anything that we do. This trip, we we're staying in like this nice hotel. We're like funded. Everything is like we haven't paid for anything yet. I just really want to go shopping.
I'm not paying for that.
Pay for if they decide not to. They pay for our whole trip. For a portion of our Atlanta trip, they funded that as well. And the president of our school is really, he really cares about what our organization is doing. I speak with him very often. A few different members in our organization speak with him very often. And she's our faculty, one of our faculty sponsors. We have another faculty member at our whole school supports us. So just leave it like that. We're gonna take questions at the end as well if you guys have any more questions.
I come from two parents who both went to college. So my dad has his master's in engineering, and my mom got her associate's in nursing. And so college wasn't optional. College was like, pick one, and you're going, and we'll drop you off. And my dad and my mom both are like two of the greatest things that could probably ever happen to me. A lot of people can't say that their parents have been there through every step of the way. My dad has been there through every breakdown, every I can't find, every biology term I don't understand. I'm a biology major, and if anybody has ever made my major in biology, don't. It's a lot of work, and I believe that a lot of the things that I am and the person that I am comes from the strong background I have. I have a family full of strong women, and I have my dad to always fall back on, and I know that. Going from high school to Adrian College, I had my hands on some of everything. So I was a link coordinator, which was a welcoming committee for freshmen. I was a pack leader, so I had to attend to a child with autism to help him have better social skills and to help him learn. And I was in yearbook. And so going from high school and being in all of that and then going to Adrian College, I knew that I wanted to be a part of something. I just didn't know what it was. And so initially, when we were approached by the former president, CJ, I just thought it was cute. And I was like, that organization, I'll join it. And so we went to, Maya and we went to the meeting, and we were just like, oh, these boys need help. I don't know what they're going to do, but they got to do it fast because I don't know what is going on. And through that, we were able to communicate. We ultimately got on the e-board, and we were able to come together and figure it out as a group and as a team. And for me, I'm a very family-oriented person. My great-grandmother has 13 kids, and each of them have a ton of kids. And so I've always felt like I've had to have a family in some way, shape, or form. And at one point, when I was a sophomore, my cousin had passed away. And all my family was at home grieving, and I was at campus alone. And I'm like, I don't have anybody, you know? And then the day after I had told them about what happened, I could barely talk. I didn't want to be around people. and we got a meeting, and there's this big bag sitting on the table. I'm like, whose birthday? I was trying to figure everything out. And by the end of the meeting, I opened the gift because it was for me. And I got a little bunny rabbit to keep me company at night. And then I opened up a card. And on that card, on the right side was all the members of Brothers in Action with some kind of personal note. And on the left was all the faculty that I've come across and something special. And that to me solidified that it was beyond me, and I had family, and I had somebody I could pick up the phone and say, hey, something is wrong, and I could get the help. And so if you leave today with nothing else, please know that Brothers in Action is a group that everybody needs. Everybody deserves a home. Everybody deserves love. Everybody deserves somebody that they can pick up the phone and call and know that they have their back. And whether people realize it or not, you can always assume somebody doesn't have any home training or assume that they don't come from the best, but you never assume that they need the help that you're not willing to give. So if you don't take anything else from that, just know that everybody is deserving of something, and it's up to you to deem necessary to help them. Thank you.
So I'm kind of like Sommer. I need to go off a little script too. So I came to Adrian College as a first generation student. My mom and my sister, they took college credits, but they never finished getting their degree. So for me, going to Adrian, it gave me a lot of anxiety because I felt a lot of pressure to complete school, and I was scared that I was gonna flunk out, because in high school I didn't have the best GPA. I really didn't like high school at all. I hated the classes, hated getting up early, so I was honestly scared when I got to Adrian that I was gonna disappoint my family and disappoint myself. So finding Brothers in Action was the most comforting thing for me during my time here at Adrian College. It was during the time I found them when I felt like my family didn't understand the stress or anxiety I was going through as a college student. And with them, I found a safe haven. They knew almost everything I was going through. They always offered me words of encouragement or that stern talk I may need to get my priorities back in line. I remember when I received my e-port position as secretary that I was terrified I wasn't going to do a good job because I was taking over 18 credit and I still had 3 jobs on campus. And everyone worked with me when I felt overwhelmed, and they knew when I had homework and assignments, they would take my job. So if I couldn't go to a meeting to take minutes, okay, well, I have it for you, so don't worry. So there's no doubt in my mind that with God and their patience with me is why I made measles last semester. I honestly believe I wouldn't have still been attending Adrian College if it wasn't for Brothers in Action. On a campus where it seems I'm always being overlooked and never heard, they always made me remember that I am heard and my voice is important. And that no matter what I go through, I can always trust on them to have my back and be right beside me through whatever. For an organization like this to work, you have to have passionate and selfless people behind it. People that know they have found something greater than themselves and that they need all hands and all minds on deck to make it function. Thank you.
So as you can see, we have something really special going on at Adrian College with this group. I've seen these students grow and become the adults they are. This summer, Maya attended a pre-law workshop through the University of Wisconsin, fully funded. I can tell you as an incoming freshman, I don't know that she would have done something like that and gone outside her box. We made her get on a plane. She's still mad at us. But I don't know that she would have taken that step to even apply. And so you've seen personal growth beyond anything that you can even put up on a slide or put into words. Anton was telling a funny story, so I'm kind of the mean bean. If you get a letter from me, it's not usually the one you want sent home. And so we were kind of joking. So he got a letter from me his freshman year, and come see me kind of thing. And I sent it home and put one in his mailbox. And his mom, and as you heard, his mom was bruised. So that was the last letter he's gotten from me like that. And the next one he'll get will be a recommendation letter, right, to grad school, because they've grown, and they've grown together. And it's not, again, it's not something you can put on a slide, and it's not something that you can, necessarily relay, in words, but the growth and the strength you've seen. Sommer, for example, how we met, the welcome week group got in a little bit of trouble, and I came in barrels blazing, and, she was like, she came up to me at the end and said, I need to know you. She glared at me, and I thought, oh boy, I've got my hands full. I'll tell you what, she calls me mom sometimes. She comes to the office and tells me what's what, who's who. So, you know, you've just seen a growth in these students that you hadn't before. Like I said in the beginning, the peer pressure, which, you know, we all negatively think about, the peer pressure within this group is so inspiring. You know, Sommer talked about how she had a death in the family. One of the members lost his sister last year in a tragic car accident. And within probably an hour, I had 4 or 5 of the brothers in action in my office saying, what can we do? How do we better support him? Mentally, physically, spiritually. You know, we're lucky we're a Christian institution, so we can talk about that stuff very openly. But it was just something that was special, and you can see it. So, from an administrative standpoint, I would tell you to fund it. It doesn't take a lot of money to fund an organization like this. Put some great people, assign some faculty members, assign some staff members to help develop the organization. As Anton said, our president is completely behind this group. He's seen the growth that's happened with these students on and off campus. You know, grade-wise, yep, we've seen a huge improvement, but they also do things above and beyond in the community that haven't been done before. So put the funding behind it if you can. And again, it's not a lot of funding. We're not a huge institution with a huge endowment. You know, I'm talking, I think, $750 kind of thing. Give almost a place to meet, and the open lines of communication, and I think that's huge. One of the things, you know, I'm a short little white woman. Be open to what the students have to say. We can't silo ourselves. We have to be open and truly listen to what the students need. This organization has brought a sense of pride and purpose to its members, and to, I will say, to the faculty members that are associated with it. They are changing the culture of Adrian College. You know, in 2008, we were 8% diverse. You know, that's pretty typical for a small private liberal arts institution. This fall of 17, we're at least up to 15%, and we'd like to see it grow. But it's growing because these students are reaching out and saying, hey, there's an opportunity here that maybe you didn't know. There's an opportunity to sit with faculty and learn how to study or learn different aspects of studying. There's an opportunity to have a great Spanish tutor right in the group, you know, those types of things. So from our campus perspective, it was pretty easy to support such a great organization. Now, I will say, the key to it has been the students. And we just got really lucky in that they self-selected it, each other. But it's so funny, they talked about how you have to be open and willing to work. Whatever students take part in this organization or maybe start an organization like this need to be highly motivated. They can't be afraid to be outspoken, and they can't be afraid to talk about some of the hard topics on campus. And obviously, you saw today, these 3 are top-notch students that don't mess around a whole lot. I would like to open up for questions that you all may have.
out once again the demographics of the university? This is not an HBCU.
No, it's not an HBCU, we're a PWI. We have 15% diverse students on campus. A majority of those are African American students. We're about 52% male. And then we are a huge athletic institution. And so our president had written a book about growing the liberal arts through co-curriculars. And so with that came a huge athletic population.
So I want to ask really about the particular demographic on campus. I run a TRIO program, and our TRIO program helps to matriculate students from high school settings into post-secondary programs. The majority of my students are African American. So given the fact that all you guys are doing the work, are there any commonalities that you see? Because I know every student is different, but are there any commonalities you see as students coming in, something they're really struggling with, issues that you continually have to address? Because by you giving me that feedback, that will help me as I'm designing my program, saying, okay, we really need to work on this now. So by the time they get into these spaces, we can, have better outcomes for them. But is there anything kind of across the board you're seeing?
So, like I said, basically, one of the most important things that I see and that I experienced when I came to college is understanding the financial aid process. You gotta pay somebody, right?
Yeah.
So once you get your hands on and be able to understand thoroughly that financial aid process, because coming from a first generation family, my mom and dad really did not understand the financial aid process. As a freshman, I did the financial aid for me. Then the next year, my sister went to college, I did it for her. Then 2 years later, my little brother went to college, I did it for him. So I've been doing it for my whole family, and I've done it because I wanted to understand. But it's people to this day who's seniors that still do not understand thoroughly the financial aid process. So I think that's very important first. You have to know about the student loans you're taking out, and you have to know how much interest they'll accrue over the years. So that's very important. Second thing is tutoring. For real, being selfish and not wanting to reach out to people when you need help. I think that's a freshman attitude as well. You come in and you don't want nobody to help you because you think that asking for help makes you less of a person or it's embarrassing. So coming in as a freshman, maybe you should do as soon as they come in, you let them know that it's okay. And everybody feels this way. You know people in New York that felt the same way as you guys feel right now, and asking for a tutor and asking for help does not make you less of a person. At the end of the day, because you just asked for a tutor, you just saved yourself probably some money because you probably failed a class or whatever may happen if you just don't ask for a tutor. It's so easy, So.
One of the conversations that we've really had to have with the students coming in are don't be afraid to surround yourself with really great, positive people. And we've talked about, because maybe their friends at home are making some poor choices, to really start to embrace the population on campus and start to make friends that you want to strive to achieve, to be. So Anton, these two ladies are role models, and so we've challenged them to surround themselves with people like them that will push them to the next level.
I think that is important as faculty, as whatever you hold, to never assume that you know what is wrong with that student. Never just assume that because they're not going to class that they just don't want to go, that they're lazy. Because in reality, I've met some of the greatest people who have some of the hardest stories and have the hardest jobs to do. And in that, I feel as though if you're going to be in any position of power, your best bet is to get to know who you're dealing with. Just like when you play cards and you count cards to make sure that whatever's going on, you have to know your opponent very well. And in a sense of assuming that you know what's going on, you're only going to hurt your chances of opening the door for that student to tell you whatever it is that is wrong. The second thing that I would say about, or something that I've seen that's common with them, is that they just simply don't know what to do. And it's not like, oh, well, they need to get a clue because they're old enough. I think that if you come from a household that already doesn't know much, it's not to say, oh, someone should hold your hand, but it definitely shouldn't be an issue to inform you and to better educate you on how to handle it yourself. So I think that making a self-sufficient student will make a self-sufficient person in the world.
Sommer brings up several really good points. You know, as an administrator, I always assumed that people knew they had to buy books. Well, they didn't, right? They didn't know how much books cost. So having those discussions early, that hey, you do have to buy your books. They're expensive. These are some options. Talking about renting books, sharing books, whatever it may take to get those, but to have those conversations early so that 3 weeks into the semester, they're not coming in and going, I didn't have the money to buy my books. So even just talking about other ways to get those resources.
Hi everyone, my name is Kedra. I work at Michigan State, so I'm from Michigan. And I'm also from Detroit, product of DPS. Go what? I went there too. My question is, how many of your students are experiencing like financial instability, so like having to work to pay for school or to support buying for books and things like that? And how do you all support those students?
Real quick, let me just let you guys know, our school costs $48,000 to attend. That's what I'm paying. Well, I don't pay it, but
It's $52.50.
she said $48,000, probably the minimum, right? So once you do the financial aid and stuff like that, you're not getting a refund check. That's just the reality of it. It's pretty hard to get like a refund check at our school, which some students at other schools survive off their refund checks. Through that semester. So one thing that we really do stress, which our organization personally don't, lend out money or things like that, but she said it herself, we're such a family, we have like this family bond, right? Where if she may be going through something, you understand what I'm saying? We feel comfortable and close enough to express to each other what our problems may be, and amongst each other. We don't go to no staff members, we don't do any of that. Amongst each other, we handle whatever situation that, that whatever problem it may be, we handle it amongst each other. So I think that that's very important. Another thing is we have people like her on our campus who you can go talk to. We have academic services on our campus, which house our Trail Excel program, and I believe that they're like so important on the campus at Adrian College. That's pretty much one of the services that made me. And you go in there and you tell them your story and let them know what's going on with you, and they'll help you more than you could ever imagine. I probably can't talk about it enough how important TRIO is for students, especially coming from first generation homes. At our school, you don't have any money. There's a lot of on-campus jobs to do, but it's very important. So I think just letting students know at these schools, like, you never know when you may need us, but you really don't need us one day. And you shouldn't have an issue with coming to let us know what's wrong with you. I think that's very important.
So we're 42% first gen.
Just wanted to know from 2014 to now, like where has membership grown to?
So they're the largest student organization we have on campus.
As a freshman, it was shaky. As a sophomore, it was about 25 students, very unorganized. As a junior, it went up to about, I'm gonna say we had over 30 members as a junior. As a senior, a lot of our students graduated. We got some students that's graduated. We got students applying to like nursing school now. We got students working good jobs in core and stuff like that. So we're looking to recruit more members right now. And I believe that our organization has done so much on our campus. And I think we're going to get more than what we had last year.
Well, and they've done a really great job of partnering with other organizations too. So we have a leadership group that most of the Brothers in Action have joined also.
How often do you meet athletes, and what type of activities and events do you do?
Well, we meet once a week on Sundays at normally 6 o'clock. And we spend an hour. We go over, like, for the month, what activities we have coming up. So Sommer, because she is in charge of the events, she normally asks, like, members who could help set up, like, for example, Fire for Christ, who can set up chairs, who can go buy the balloons. The group pays for it. We just need people, like, we need help, all hands on deck, getting things set up.
I'll say one thing. Let me tell you guys about Fire for Christ. So coming in as a freshman, I like to talk, right? I like to talk to people. But we have people that's in our organization who will never get up and get in front of a crowd. And that's very important, especially in the career realm. When you get your career, 9 times out of 10, you got to talk in front of people. And this event, Fire for Christ, we bring in pastors from the community, pastors from our community. We bring in motivational speakers from the community as well. And we also feature students that's a part of our organization as well. We get about 100 to 200 individuals to attend our event. And in this event, a student who may not be comfortable talking in front of people, they're able to get up, go to a podium, write a speech, and deliver a message in front of individuals. I think that that's very important, and I think that that's one of the reasons why they feel comfortable talking in front of people as well, because as a freshman, I don't think that they would have been like, let me get up here and talk to people. Now they're okay with talking to anybody about anything, and that's a lot of people in our organizations that way as well.
And just to add on, like, the tail end, our biggest Fire for Christ event held 250 people. And that's outside and inside the community of Adrian.
I'm the trio director at a Christian institution also, but we have Muslim students. And I wondered if do you have any African American Muslims? Because we do. And do they feel alienated when it's so
I don't think we do.
No.
Christian-centered activities?
They will bring in speakers while they do Christian-based programs. They will bring in Muslim speakers to talk about the different belief systems and to make sure that, like they said, everyone's included or at least has a voice.
But no, I don't think we have any African American Muslim students.
We don't. But the thing about our organization is that if we did,
We would see them.
we will for sure make sure that they feel comfortable enough voicing and inviting and doing anything that they wanted to do to feel comfortable being in our organization.
One, I want to say that I think it's incredible what you guys are doing. So I'm honored that I'm here listening to students. I think you guys should do this at more conferences.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions. One, can you describe what your intake process is? And then my other question is, what key stakeholders or departments have you partnered with on campus? So, like, has the admissions office leveraged your group to help with recruitment?
I can do the admissions part. So earlier last year, I think around this time last year, I made a brochure, and the brochure was okayed by who was over us at the time, and then admissions okayed that they would hand out those brochures to incoming students, not just black students, but to everybody. And I think that when you have a strong backbone or a strong support system, you have no choice but to do good. We've partnered with Academic Services, her office, which is Academic Affairs. We paired with Registrar at some point to help kids get registered for classes. There's not a department at Adrian College, it's literally one big circle. There's not a department in Adrian that will not have a hand in something that we do.
Yeah, and we have done events. One of my favorite events that I've done last year is hosted a few things for Black History Month. You know, like we did, we watched a few movies, we invited a few speakers, we've had a few panel discussions amongst our students, and we partnered with like our Department of Education, our Department of History, Spanish. Everybody was ready to here when we had, you know, set a platform, create a platform where students could come and listen and talk amongst each other about, you know, we talked about politics, we talked about pretty much everything, and that's whenever we decide to plan anything, whenever we decide to do anything, one thing's for sure, the departments in our school, they're like all for it. And, you know, some may, you know, be all for it, you know, not come or whatever, but we don't even really see that. You know what I'm saying? If they are for it, they're all for it. That's one thing that's made our organization grow, I believe.
How did your organization differentiate itself from student government association group on campus, but how different is that from a student government association?
So,
How are we different?
we have a student government association at our school, and they basically oversee all of the student organizations at our school, and they also provide platforms for student organizations to get in front of other organizations and discuss maybe a topic. They provide funding if you may need it to do something in your organization. Our organization is meant for students to come together to, you know, graduate, and that's what we basically focus on. Becoming a person that will be successful in the society and also graduate as well. Student government focus on.
So you're like you said student affairs, so this is like
We student organization.
So we have SGA, which falls under student life, and then Brothers in Action is a group under SGA. So a couple years ago, the president of Brothers in Action was on student government also.
Two questions. One is, how does the Brothers in Action intersect with the TRIO services on campus with student support services? For example, TRIO does tutoring, peer tutoring, like how does that work together? And the other thing is you mentioned earlier about focus groups, back before the group was organized. Like, what would you say was the impetus for it to get off the ground in the first place? And maybe you can talk about it, you were there at the very beginning. Like, was it being involved in those focus groups, or what?
He wasn't part of the focus groups. The focus groups were prior to the impetus of Brothers in Action.
So how did it start?
So I met with one of my favorite people, and I was meeting with a student pretty regularly, and he actually came to me because he was concerned that that the retention of African American males was down. He didn't even know the numbers. He just knew that a lot of the guys that he came in to school with were no longer there. And so him and I started talking about it, and he said that he'd be all in to sit down with a group of his friends and talk about what's going on campus and why we were losing so many African American males. From that, we also had a young man that we have what's called the Ribbons of Excellence Conference, where students come in and present. So one of the young men who was key in starting this organization did a study, and within his study he did even more focus groups to find out, kind of look at the campus environment overall. So that's kind of how that started. As far as the work with TRIO, because this group came out of an idea through academic affairs and academic services, the first faculty staff person to lead it was in academic services with TRIO. And so it was almost a natural combination. And since then, their key advisor has been in academic services. So it's a very easy, natural happening. Any more questions?
By any chance does this organization impact the diversity at the administrative level at Adrian College? I ask that because I think this organization could certainly have either students or staff representing themselves or their organization at the table as they're interviewing key administrators on campus. And I just wanted to know whether or not that's happened or if that's something that you guys consider to be a key role.
Well, one thing I could say is that because of this organization, I have been able to be in a position to speak with different individuals on our campus who are a part of the hiring process of faculty and staff, and we express that one of the reasons we believe African American students may leave our campus is because we have no African American faculty and staff. We have now, I think, 2 maybe faculty members, but being able to even just sit as a student and express with your vice president, the president of your organization, that you believe that if you had a few more African American faculty members, that a few more African American students will be at your institution, and they actually, listen to what you say, and you have multiple conversations about this, and the next year you come back to school, you have that same conversation about this. I could actually see our school in a few years having more African American faculty, but I believe that one reason that they don't come to our school is not because of our school. I think that the city is so small.
Yeah.
The city is so small that I know for a fact if they have offered me a position, I'm not looking to work at a city such as Adrian, Michigan, because that's just the reality of it. But
So one of the things that has been interesting, and I'm finishing my PhD in higher ed through the University of Toledo, but my dissertation stemmed from the conversations that have happened in the group discussions and talking with Brothers in Action. And so my dissertation is on the lived experiences of Black female faculty at the liberal arts colleges, and part of what I'm looking at is why are we not retaining and recruiting better within the diverse field.
Yeah, that was going to be actually one of my questions, because the Adrian issue is across the board. In person versus educational opportunity program for assistant administration for the State University of New York. That's
It's a big conversation.
So, has there been any collaborative efforts with some of the public universities at all, because of the great work that you're doing?
So we are part of the Council of Independent Colleges. So within that big organization, Michigan State is a big powerhouse, and so is the University of Michigan. And so we go to the table with them, but through the CIC.
one thing I'll say about education is it's being cornerstone in our society right now, especially as an African American. We grow up in low poverty situations, and a lot of students understand that being in a career such as education, being a teacher, being a professor, maybe being a counselor, students are shying away from these things because honestly they're not making as much money as they deserve. So coming from low poverty background, students are shying away from that. So we have to figure out a way to either get African Americans to go into education or embrace the staff that we do have. And I believe that that's one reason why our organization is successful as well. You spend too much time thinking about what you could do if somebody else was here. We have to focus on what we do have, right? And taking what we do have and making that thing work, I think that's the way that you have to live. You spend too much time thinking about what's going to happen if we recruit an African American so-and-so. We got to focus on what we can do right now, and eventually we hope that we have those kind of staff members on our campus. Any more questions?
After you redid your constitution, you said you raised the GPA requirement to be part of the group 2.5?
Yes.
To get into the group, you have to get 2.5. Do you see that the GPA requirement kind of alienates any students who may, through being a part of the group, to have a chance to find success in their own life?
Too much.
Whether it be academic or applied?
The only reason why I would say that it doesn't alienate anybody is because, like we said before, we accept everybody. So if you had a 1.7 GPA, 9 out of 10, either Dean Winslow or Dean Milner or someone of higher up who sees that struggle will let us know that one needs to be in there, that one needs to be in there. And through that, we accept everybody. So we don't alienate anybody, but by the time you leave out, you will have something other than that. No.
No, one shoe, so it's no, like, you gotta have this, you gotta have this, you gotta have this.
They have a probation process, and they have, to be an e-board member, the 2.5 is an absolute. But they'll work with students who are struggling, and they may be all over that student.
You said the relationship with the TRIO program is that the advisor of the organization works with the TRIO SSS program to institution, but it's not a student organization that came by way of the SSS program. The reason I ask is because of the raising legs, like you can't purchase food, for example, from our grant money. So I know some SSS programs develop like a student organization, so that student organization can develop some programs, provide some funding, some fees, things of that nature, to provide income that you can't utilize for our grants, for example. So you're not directly under the SSS program, but y'all work in collaboration.
Yeah.
Can you speak to your point there about pushback? I'm curious.
Initially, which the students evolved themselves, we took a little bit of pushback because it was started for African American male students, and that was it. Then the students were like, no, we want females and we want a diverse group, so we just opened it up. So that's where the pushback came from.
Piggybacking off of that, did that come from administration side that did not want it because it was for African American males?
No.
Student population.
The student population.
Did not understand what y'all was trying to do until you actually did it.
Like when they first formed, it was strictly for black men, and so we got there and it was black men and women, and we're like, we have a lot of people interested, but they feel excluded, so you have to open it up as a multicultural organization for others to want to feel more included and not feel as if they're being segregated out of the group because it says African American students. So we decided to open it up, not anybody in administration.
And to go off that, being that Adrian College is a predominantly white institution and it's such a small community, I think a lot of people's automatic assumption is that everything on campus is supposed to just be predominantly white people and white people organized. And for that, I just think that that's where Brothers in Action comes in. And we also have a brother organization called Alpha, which are both ran by, Brothers in Action is obviously ran by Anton Horton, and Alpha is actually run by Courtney Young, which is a black female. And so as far as us being underrepresented, we make our voice heard, and we don't take no for an answer, and we do it with a smile.
All right.
Actually, just wanted to share just a quick comment because I work with a lot of different universities and institutions, and what I see often is a quick band-aid, which is they create an ad hoc or they create a task force, and then once the university feels like the problem is solved or they feel like there's not as much uproar or conversation, they calm that task force down or that ad hoc down. And I really respect what you guys are doing because this is a long-standing commitment to diversifying the student population and hopefully in return also diversify the administrators and faculty on all of our systems.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll stick around if anybody has any questions, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
We do have evals that we're going to pass out if you haven't gotten one.
On behalf of COE, Team Winslow, thank you, and your students are amazing for this presentation.
They're awesome.
For copy evaluation, before you fill out otherwise, please download your app, COE, and you will fill it out online, but if you do want the old paper copy, I do have, but you guys have a wonderful afternoon.
My mom.
Thank you.
At the bottom. Hi, Mommy. Hi, Anton. Hi, Godmommy. Your mama been left, girl. Oh, no, she was still there. Hi, Mama. Turn the camera. Can I? There we go. Hey, guys. We survived it. We leave Sunday. Thank you guys for watching. I'm getting off here now.